Hello, everyone. It's Mr. Skull coming at you from YouTube. All right. So last week we talked about plant cells, and this week we're going to talk about animal cells. And as we have learned, cells make up all living organisms. Plant cells are specific to plants, where animal cells are specific to animals. So there are some similarities and differences between them, and that's what we're going to be looking at this week. So first off, in our focus question, what are animal cells, and how are they different slash similar to plant cells? So go ahead and head on over to the Google form and fill out that question. I'll give you some time here. As always, if you need some more time, feel free to pause the video and then come back to it whenever you're ready. So, a quick review. Last week we talked about what cells are, and more specifically, what what were parts and functions of plant cells. So we looked at plant cells and what were some of those pieces within the plant cells and what they do within the plant cell. Some examples of these parts are the nucleus. It's a sphere-like organelle and is the control center of the cell. It's kind of like the human brain. That's the way I like to think of it. It's kind of how I was taught. It's the brain of the cell. The cell wall is the border of the cell while protecting the cell and keeping its shape. So it protects it and also holds up the shape, so the structural integrity of the cell, so it doesn't collapse. An intro to animal cells. This week we'll be moving our focus into animal cells. Animal cells are the basic building blocks of life in all animals, including humans and even insects. We will talk about the different parts of an animal cell and compare it to what we learned last week about plant cells. So here's our introductory video, 10 key structures and functions of the animal cell.
Thanks for stopping by. This is 2 Minute Classroom, and today we're going to talk about the animal cell. The animal cell is the most basic unit of life in all animals, including humans and insects. Yes, biologically, you are far more similar to an insect than you likely realized. Let's go through the major structures of the animal cell and touch briefly on the function of each. We'll start on the outside with the cell membrane. This is what separates the cell from the environment outside the cell. It is also known as the phospholipid bilayer and has various structures to allow for the inflow and outflow of water and other molecules and compounds. Next is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is everything within the confines of the cell membrane, including all organelles, proteins, and other structures. This is not the same as the cytosol, which is the fluid these organelles move around in. The Golgi apparatus, or Golgi body, is the packaging and shipping center of the cell. It modifies molecules of proteins produced by the cell and sends them in vesicles to be shipped out of the cell. Ribosomes are next, and they are small structures throughout the cell made up of proteins and RNA. They are responsible for translating RNA into proteins for use in and out of the cell. They are found freely floating in the cell or bound to the endoplasmic reticulum. This is our next structure, and there are actually two types. The rough endoplasmic reticulum aids in the production and storage of proteins that are made on the ribosomes attached to it. It's these ribosomes that give it its rough texture and name. Proteins made in the rough ER are then sent to the Golgi apparatus. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or smooth ER, does not contain ribosomes and is involved with the production of lipids and aids in detoxification. The nucleus is the center of the cell, not necessarily in location, but in function. This is where your DNA is stored and protected. The DNA is read by special proteins and transcribed into RNA to be translated into proteins. Information that comes out of the nucleus determines how the cells function, and ultimately, how your genes are manifested. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. This is where cells and organisms get their energy to function. The mitochondria is the main producer of ATP, the energy currency of the cell. The cytoskeleton is the structure and framework of the cell. It contains a vast infrastructure of microtubules and microfilaments. It gives cells their shape and structural support. The centrosomes are usually located near the nucleus and are responsible for the production of microtubules. They also play a critical role in mitosis by moving to the ends of the cell and helping it divide. I'll throw in a few honorable mentions here that you will want to be aware of. Lysosomes contain digestive enzymes and are responsible for recycling old molecules, proteins, and structures. Vacuoles are membrane-bound storage containers, and peroxisomes contain oxidative enzymes that also aid in digestion. So that's a quick crash course into the animal cell. If you learned something, please like this video and subscribe for more content. I love to respond to all my comments, so please leave those below. Don't forget to check out my other videos, and I'll catch you next time.
So, I don't know about you, but that was a lot of information coming at me quickly and very in-depth. So what that video does is it breaks down the various structures within it, and it also talks about the function that each structure provides for the animal cell. It'll also be linked in the Google form, so if you want to go back through it, you can feel free to use this video, or you can look at the Google form and go directly to that YouTube video. So structures and functions. Now let's go through a couple of the structures and functions you heard about in the video. Cell membrane. It surrounds and separates the cell from its outside environment. This is interesting because if we think about it, what it does, it provides an entrance and exit to the cell while also protecting it from everything outside of it. Cytoplasm is everything inside of the cell. So all of the different structures we're going to look at is part of the cytoplasm because it's all inside of the cell. The nucleus, it's a control center. It holds and protects DNA of the cell. And like I said earlier, when I was going through school, they taught us the nucleus is just like the brain. It controls everything. Some more structures and functions. The Golgi apparatus. It's the packaging and shipping area where molecules and proteins are prepared to be sent out of the cell. So it's kind of like UPS, maybe a little bit of Amazon. It's packaging and shipping everything that needs to go out of the cell. The endoplasmic reticulum, rough and smooth. So, the rough creates and stores proteins and sends them to the Golgi apparatus. The smooth protects the lipids and helps to detoxify the cell, meaning it helps to keep it clean, living, and healthy. Mitochondria. It's the powerhouse of the cell, where cells and organisms get their energy. Even to this day, I can always tell you, mitochondria is powerhouse, nucleus is brain. The other ones, not so fresh on. So plant versus animal cell similarities. So now take some time to come up with a couple of similarities between both plant and animal cells. Plant and animal cells share a lot of the same structures and functions, but they have a couple differences. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to just really think about, write it down in that Google form. What are some similarities? No. They both have nucleus, spoiler. And as usual, if you need some more time, feel free to take it and unpause the video whenever. So, as I kind of spoiled when I was trying to get to the timer, they both have a nucleus, both have a cell membrane, both have mitochondria, and there are many more. Let's see how many other similarities you can find between the two. Plant and animal cell differences. So now, take some time to try to come up with a couple differences between both plant and animal cells. I would start with the fairly simple one, the first one. Well, plant cells are found in plants, and animal cells are found in animals. We're going to start the timer as usual. If you need more time, pause it when we're done, or if you finish early, you can go ahead and fast forward. And there's another spoiler. Only plant cells have a cell wall. If you need some more time, feel free to take it and just pause the video. So, we already have one difference between plant and animal cells. Well, two, if you include that plant cells are in plants and animal cells are in animal. Only plant cells have a cell wall. Only plant cells have a chloroplast. These were just two of the main ones I can think of. There are some more, and I highly encourage you to look at them and find them. All right. So, I personally find that the cell, plants and animal cells, are very interesting to look at. And you could do some research of your own and be able to find some cool YouTube videos with some plant and animal cells. I personally find animal cells a little bit more interesting because they are moving around and they just have a little bit more life when I'm watching the videos than plant cells. While plant cells are alive, they are structurally in place. Um, So I would highly advise you to go out and maybe find some YouTube videos of your own and look at them. I know this is not the Earth history, and that's why I think it's a little bit more exciting. Not that Earth history doesn't rock, pun intended, but I would highly advise you to go ahead and look up some plant animal cells and see what they do, their structures and functions. Also, and since I know we all have quite a bit of free time these days, if you find or build or create something like you make a little model of a plant or animal cell, feel free to email it to me and I'll feature you in next week's video with a shout out. All right, have a wonderful week and I will see you next week for the next lesson.